Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. Back again with part 2 of Why Islam is the Truth by Rhyad on the Rhyad channel. Yeah, I did part 1 about 3 months ago. Got about 13 minutes into it, so just going to listen to the rest now, give you my thoughts, my reactions. As always, like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, your opinions on what I'm saying. And yeah, let's get into it.
Throughout history, Allah has sent prophets like Abraham, Moses, and Jesus to bring people back to the worship of one God. In Islam, the final prophet sent to humanity was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. What's interesting is that the way Muslims have preserved his life is above and beyond any other type of preservation in history. You can't just make up stories about him. Narrations must be supported by the chain of narrators that goes all the way back to his time. The narration and narrators are then tested against strict criteria to verify that the narration can be trusted. Depending on the tests, the narration is then graded with a level of authenticity. Anything you read about the Prophet must have a grade, or else it is completely ignored. If the grade is substantially weak, Muslims instantly reject the narration. So to deny that he existed is like denying all history. Saying that, his life is so well documented because of the impact he had on his people. We know things like how he used to eat and even the position he used to sleep. It wouldn't be far from accurate to say that we know more about him than any other historical figure. All of this information literally invites us to study his life and make a rational decision to see if he was actually a prophet or not. There are 3 possibilities for this claim. Either he was lying, or he was mad, or he was telling the truth. Let's break this down. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, received the first revelation from God at the age of 40. This means he lived a completely normal life for 40 years before becoming a prophet. In these 40 years, he built a reputation in his community, and they literally nicknamed him the truthful and the trustworthy. He was known to have never told a single lie. Think about it. 40 years of sincerity, and then to suddenly come up with a monumental lie like being a prophet doesn't make any logical sense. Later in his life, as people started joining Islam, the leaders were getting more frustrated. They offered him anything he wanted just so that he stopped preaching. If there was any time to show that he was lying, this was it. Remember, a liar always lies for a reason, but he rejected. Doesn't this show sincerity? The Prophet was also known to have so much wisdom, and his character was impeccable. People used to race to serve him in any way they could. Muslims and non-Muslims turned to him for advice, and he never said no to any request. These are not qualities of someone that is mad. Perhaps the biggest proof for me is that the Prophet could not read or write, had no educational background, yet was able to bring forth the Qu'ran that remains the best literature the world has seen even after 1400 years. Logically, this is enough to verify his prophethood. The Qu'ran has literally shaken the world. The Prophet also told many prophecies that made no sense at the time and have only recently materialized. Listen to...
I'll just pause it there quickly. I mean, a lot of this stuff I did already know about the Prophet not being able to read or write, being a very trustworthy man. Yeah, which is all very valid points, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, do Muslims consider that he was, because these days in kind of modern day terms, or should I say modern spiritual circles, there's a phenomenon called channeling, where people either do it consciously or unconsciously. A famous one is Bashar, a guy who claims to be a guy called Daryl Anchor. He's claiming to channel a voice of an extraterrestrial being called Bashar, and he sits down and he answers people's questions and stuff. Is it safe to say that Prophet Muhammad, after meeting Angel Gabriel, was channeling the words of Allah through Gabriel? Was he a channel like the modern day channels are? Is he a channeler? Or is it more seen as delivering the message of God? I mean, he's doing it through channeling, isn't he? He's obviously someone who can't read or write. He's coming out of all this eloquent text and information and detailed information, stuff he could never know. But obviously he's lying there by himself and the words are coming out. So is he considered a channeler? Is the religion of Islam based off a channeled text? Because they say Moses channeled God, they say Jesus channeled the words of God. They say the gurus, the Sikh gurus, channeled God's words. What do you guys think? Let's continue.
To this, he said that the poor Arabs of the deserts would compete in building tall buildings.
Yeah, I've heard of this prophecy many times actually, which is really impressive. Obviously, the knowledge he was channeling obviously came from a source that knew that there would be an oil boom in the Middle East, in the Gulf region, which would allow them to build these massive, amazing cities in the middle of the desert, which is amazing, really. You can't really deny that prophecy, to be honest.
He said that interest will spread such that no one can escape the dust of it. He said that power and authority will be given to the wrong people. He said that sexual promiscuity would become rampant and that parents would give birth to their masters.
Wow, never heard that one. Parents give birth to their masters. So there'll be an age where the kids are ruling the parents. Wow, that's interesting.
These are only just a few examples from a plethora of authentically graded prophecies. Amazingly, his greatness is globally recognized even by non-Muslims. For example, Michael Hart, who wrote the famous book of the top 100 most influential people in history, and he places the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as number one in his list. Other examples include Dr. Keith Moore, George Bernard Shaw, Gandhi, Thomas Carlyle, Lamartine, and the list goes on and on. Can't we logically and rationally say that he was telling the truth? See, the message of Islam is very simple. It is to direct all.
Just to pause it there a second. Okay, based on making prophecies, which a lot of them did seem to come true, does that give credence to everything else he says? I know that would be a way to substantiate what he's saying and, say, yeah, we should believe in this because look at everything else he said, it's been true. But you could argue that once you make the prophecies, then you have leeway to say anything. Not that I'm saying that's what he did, or that's what happened, but I'm saying that's what people would argue. They would say, okay, once you make these prophecies, even though his word was taken as truth before the prophecies were fulfilled, people can say, he's free to do whatever he wants in terms of producing whatever knowledge he wants. But I believe the knowledge was divinely inspired.
All inward and outward acts of worship to Allah and Allah alone. Worship isn't just to pray. Worship is to obey and to love and to rely upon Allah more than anything or anyone else. It means to break free from society's expectations of you and to fully submit to the expectations of the Creator. In other words, you don't act a certain way or dress a certain way to please certain people. Everything you do is for the sake of Allah. This is true liberation, if you ask me. There is no leap of faith in Islam. Allah has given us an intellect, countless signs, and a lifetime to search for Him. If after this video you now believe that there is only one God, and that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was his final prophet, you have found the truth, and I would like to personally invite you to Islam.
Alright, that's the end of the video. So, very, very interesting video. I mean, okay, as I said, I do believe that the Quran was divinely inspired. It was seemingly channeled from a divine source after the Prophet's encounter with Angel Gabriel. For me, the question of mainstream Islam is, was everything interpreted in the correct way? Now, I know people say they follow the teachings of the Prophet and the Sahaba for things that they don't know, or things that are not clear, and they follow the Muslim scholars. But for some of the key beliefs in Islam, like only living once, I'm not sure that, for me, as far as I've known, these are not explicitly described in the Quran. These seem to have come more from interpretation of the text from the people's view at the time. As I mentioned in the previous video, maybe, you know, the only life you get here in this experience, in this density, in this dimension, happens once, but you get multiple lives, but it's only once. Once it's done, you don't get another chance, as they say in the Quran. People ask to go back, but they'll be denied, they won't be allowed to go back. So, yeah, it's interesting. You then have the question of the covenant that was made with the Jews by the Old Testament God, which Allah does claim to be. Yeah, as I say, there's a lot of truth in Islam. There are some things that I'm a bit not totally sure on. Like, the knowledge is good, it seems divine, it seems like it was definitely channeled from a divine source. But maybe the interpretations are what's throwing me off, maybe, I don't know. I've heard, like, you know, Sufism and Islamic mystics have a different interpretation of the book. So, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna react to more things. I'm gonna react to a few more Quran chapters, so I can really get my teeth into it again and really get my mind into the message again. That would be the best thing. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. I've been your boy Dan. I'm going to upload another video very soon. Thanks for tuning in. I'm out.